you have beliefs about yourself that have been created over time, and that your circumstances, external events have reinforced those beliefs so that you really believe them to be true about yourself, such as I'm not good enough. I wasn't born with the tenacity. I can't build it. That's just a belief. It's not objectively true. It's something that can be changed.
Cole Hastings.
How are we doing? Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you for being here. So let's start off with a fun and interesting topic. Tell us about no-fap, cold showers, and journaling for 90 days straight.
So that was the first video that really blew up on my YouTube channel, first and foremost. And this was a very transformative period in my life where I was going through a breakup, and I had just moved out of my parents' house, and I wanted to challenge myself in a way that would take my mind off of everything that was going on and just become someone greater. And so I decided to take on the challenge of doing nofap. I was watching some videos on nofap and the benefits of it. And even though I was skeptical, I still wanted to try it because I have been addicted to, adult content all my life. And you just think of, jerking off as a regular thing that guys do. It's almost weird if you don't. And I really wanted to challenge myself with that and see how it would increase my resilience towards anything in life. And then cold showers as well. That was, a big thing. This was like mid 2020, and cold showers were starting to get more popular, seeing the benefits of that. And then journaling, it's been around forever in the self-improvement community. And I thought just combine all these together. And I think for that video, I just titled it 90 days of doing all three of those things, as if I was like intentionally doing all of those for 90 days at once. But really, I had been journaling for a long time. I had been taking cold showers for a long time. It was really the nofap that I had just started. And I just decided to make a video about all three. And I guess that really resonated with people. And after that, I had this whole like semen retention nofap journey, which looking back on is pretty wild. And eventually on YouTube, that was kind of my thing for a little bit, especially when I first blew up and started out. And I remember I was sitting at dinner with my family at my old house, and we were just talking about kind of my YouTube channel gaining some traction finally after like 3 years of posting, I think I was. And my sister told me, she's like, yeah, I had this random guy that I work with. He like pulled up your YouTube channel, and it's like, is this your brother? Is the nofap guy your brother? So that's what I was like known as, the nofap guy, for a little while. And after that, I realized I need to expand past what just made me blow up. But that was, an interesting period of my life when I was practicing that. And I still try to somewhat till this day, but definitely started this whole journey with YouTube actually becoming a career.
That's awesome. So a couple questions about nofap, just in general for the audience. But also before we get too deep, I actually want to introduce you. So Cole Hastings is a popular YouTuber, almost 600,000 subscribers at this point, content creator and aspiring filmmaker. His current focus is really, at least in the last couple of years, has been self-improvement. And he just creates incredible content. I've been following his journey since 2020, and really excited to connect with you today about your YouTube entrepreneurial journey. But before we dive into that, I'm curious, what are some of the benefits for the listeners of embarking on that nofap 30, 60, or 90-day journey?
Really, the only people I think should embark on something like that are the ones who are really addicted to watching adult websites. There's a lot of research to show that it neurologically changes things in the brain related to forming connections in real life, and basically, anything you consume since you're a kid and you continue consuming it is going to impact the way you view those types of things in reality throughout your life. And so a lot of kids grow up thinking this is how women should be treated, and a lot of young guys. And so they kind of come off as, I don't know, it can make you come off as creepy if that's how you're seeing a woman, as just an object. And so if that's how you've been raised and conditioned to interact with the opposite sex, I think it's absolutely beneficial, as well as if you're just addicted to it and it's providing so much dopamine, which it is, because your brain can't really tell the difference between if you're actually having sex versus if you're just watching it. It produces a similar sort of effect on your neurology. And so imagine you're getting unlimited sex from any girl you want. That's basically what watching adult content is. And you're just completely frying your dopamine system and your reward system, so that other things in real life that should be motivating, and you should be motivated to do them, just difficult tasks that will produce fulfillment later in your life, they're more difficult to do because your reward system is just fried from pornography. And so that is who I think should do it. Also, even if you're not super addicted, I think just the sheer mindset and willpower you gain from abstaining from any sort of sexual pleasure for a short period of time, let's say 30 days, because you don't even have to do 90 days. If you do that for like 30 days, it is such a test of your mindset and how much control you can actually have over it. So for me, it just shows me that like I'm so much more capable of not giving into my temptations and staying focused. And obviously sexual energy is, and being horny, it's a very high energy. It's a lot of energy stored in your body. And if you're not releasing that energy in the form of what we've been talking about, then you're naturally going to want to use it on other things. And so you might just find that you also have more energy to pursue other things that you've wanted to pursue that you haven't had a lot of energy for, that are positive for your life. And so that's why I think you should do it. And NoFap, it has different tiers. It's like medium and hard mode. Medium mode is like I think medium mode is you don't watch pornography, but you can still have sex. And then hard mode is just like, it's basically semen retention. So you just retain, you're abstinent and you don't watch pornography. So
what happens if you have like a wet dream?
Yeah,
Are you disqualified?
No, definitely not. It happened to me when I first did like retention fully. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It's not like you're reverting back to your old self or regressing when that happens. It's like it's going to come out somehow. And sometimes that'll be during a dream. But I find even when I retain for long periods of time now, it doesn't happen. So it could just be like a first time thing. I don't know. But no, it doesn't. It definitely does not destroy your progress or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I will speak like a little bit from my side. I feel like whenever I indulge in adult content, like it kills my drive to like actually like do the things I really want to do in life. Like, I can do the kind of the baseline stuff, like whatever work I currently have going on and the relationships and the life I'm living. But if I'm trying to get to the next level in any of those areas, it will literally sap all that energy. And it's just like, it's basically like, cool. If I want to like flatline my life, like
Yeah.
just indulge in a bunch of adult content,
Right.
So I appreciate you being so open to talk about it, because I think in certain realms, like I think they're within kind of the YouTube community, kind of in certain age demographics, it is talked about a lot. But I think kind of more in my age demographic, because I'm a little bit older than you, um, as well as kind of like outside of YouTube, it's not talked about a lot. And so, like, I'm glad we're actually talking about it on the show, because I've never talked about it on the show before, really.
Mhm.
So, but we're definitely not going to stay here because you're not the no fap guy. So
Appreciate that.
let's. I'm curious, before we kind of dive into your story, though. There's kind of a similar thing to the cold showers. So tell us, like, why is that such a empowering habit to develop?
Cold showers, you're saying?
Yeah.
So let's forget all the somewhat credible scientific evidence for it, which is like increasing your white blood cell count, increasing your immunity, decreasing inflammation. I think those really only come anyway from like ice baths and like plunging and submerging yourself in cold water for at least like a few minutes. And that's like ice water. Cold showers, I don't know, not so much. So let's forget all that for a second. The biggest reason I think someone should do something like that is, again, willpower and mindset sort of thing. Yes, it definitely does wake me up to have a cold shower, but I think when I'm standing there and I'm looking at the cold water and the thought of going into it and all the excuses that my mind starts to make up, and realizing I can push through that in that moment and just shut my mind up and just do the thing and push through those excuses, well, that eventually bleeds into other areas of your life. And if you're doing that every single day, like I've been doing for like almost several years, besides the occasional hot showers, then it's absolutely going to bleed into other parts of your life. And you're going to recognize that voice that is telling you, I'm not ready to do that yet. I'm too tired today. Things need to be a little more set in stone now, or like just your voice of fear as well in doing something you're really afraid of, but will contribute to the betterment of your life. You start to just say, I don't want to, you should acknowledge it, of course, but like, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway. And that's what I think cold showers can help you do.
Yeah. I love that. We might circle back to journaling, but I want to dive into your entrepreneurial journey. So, there's a lot of people who want to become YouTubers, and I think most people never even start, and then those who start, very few continue
Yes.
with it long enough to actually become successful. So take us back to, when you got started. Why did you start? Like, how was the dream born?
Yeah. So sophomore year of college, I had started actually thinking about the idea of self-improvement, which wasn't even an idea in my head. Before that, I was a very heavy binge drinker in college and in high school, throughout high school as well. I started drinking 8th grade summer, I think it was. And so that was like my life was, where's the party going to be this weekend? How do I get people to like me? How can I hook up with a girl? Like the idea of self-improvement, it didn't cross my mind. And so I think it naturally happened one day where I was stumbling upon the more spiritual side of things, like thinking about reality differently. And I suppose like Eastern philosophy and religion, those types of things. And there's a specific YouTube channel, Ralph Smart, who you might know. Infinite Waters is his other alias. And back then he was producing some real basic self-improvement content that was also kind of geared towards being spiritual as well. And I really got into like all of that spirituality, being in the present moment, meditating every day. It's like seeing that we're all connected, doing psychedelics, stuff like that was kind of how it started. And then I was thinking about what I wanted to do with the future of my life. And I didn't really know. I mean, I was going to college for computer science. I then switched majors to cognitive science. I had a general idea of what I wanted to do. But I was walking to class one day, and randomly the thought of making a YouTube channel popped up because I'd been watching. I mean, I guess it's not random because I've been consuming so much YouTube self-improvement content at that time. My brain was like, hey, you should do this. You should try this out. You've been studying self-improvement for, I don't know, I think it was like half a year by then. And this is something you could do. And I suppose I always had kind of a hunch towards making videos. I had done that since I was a little kid. And I just randomly bought a camera, a very, very cheap camera that recorded like 1080p, but it didn't even look like 1080p. It looked like shit. Honestly, it looked like my phone. And then a lavalier mic. And I remember just making my first video, putting the camera down and being like, hey, so here's my YouTube channel. I'm going to make self-improvement videos and vlogs, and yeah, please subscribe. And I was like sharing it everywhere. And that's basically how it started.
What year was that?
That was 2017.
Okay. And when did you, like, tell us more about that process? Like, you made that first video, then how many videos were you making a week? Did you stay in college? Did you drop out of college? What did your parents think?
Yeah, good questions. So yeah, I was juggling college and making YouTube videos. I was making one video a week off of some topic I had just learned about or something like that. And just, I don't even remember if I was scripting back then. I don't think I really was. I just had like some bullet points that I would talk over or talk about. Wasn't much editing in my videos back then. The idea was just, get the videos out once a week, stay consistent to it while also being in college and then also having a girlfriend. It was tough to juggle. I did not drop out of college. I finished my 4-year degree. I got a bachelor's degree in cognitive science, a minor in computer science. And during the time of the dark ages for my channel, which was literally 3 years. I mean, it really didn't, like I said, didn't blow up till 2020. There was a lot of confusion, uncertainty, and fear. Well, not really fear, just uncertainty of where this was going to go. I knew that I could do this eventually if I just keep going, if I just keep pressing upload. Eventually it is going to work out. That's what I would always tell myself. And I truly believe that. But at the start of any entrepreneurial journey, I'm sure you're aware that you're basically the only person who believes in yourself. I would post my videos back then on like all my social medias, like all my real social medias where I have friends from real life, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat stories, Twitter, everywhere. And I was getting roasted quite a bit for it. I'm getting insulted by people who know me. One girl posted on her Snapchat story, like filming one of my videos, like on her laptop. And she's like, look at how ratchet this guy from City Honors is, which was my high school. And yeah, there were parents who didn't really understand it, including my parents. My parents were pretty supportive, honestly, but they just didn't understand how do you make money off of this, right? Like how you're making videos online, how is that eventually going to produce income? I tried to explain it to them. Still, they don't really understand until they see it happen. But mostly they were supportive. It was only like one of my parents' friends was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, how are you going to make money off of this? Basically, that's how a lot of people are. If before you have anything to show for it, and you're deviating from the norm, it's like, bro, what are you doing? Like this, like, what are you doing with your life? Like, go get a real job, basically. And that continued throughout college. I graduated college, and I had this degree, so I was like, okay, I want to get a job because YouTube is not making me any money right now. I think I was making a little bit off of coaching, but I was applying for jobs at that time to become a UI UX designer. And I remember I applied to a few, got pretty far in an interview process for one, and then it's slowly, I didn't make it to like the final round. And then also, I'd been working as a busser at a city club during that time. Again, just hard balancing everything. But the little bit of money I started to make was when I started my Instagram. So YouTube started May 2017. And then I started my Instagram account the summer of 2017 when I had went vegan. And once I went vegan, I was thinking about changing my whole brand from self-improvement to fitness, to like vegan fitness. And so that's what I did. I made this Instagram account, which was called Eightfold Fitness, which is a reference to the Eightfold Path of the Buddha. Like I said, talking about spirituality, Eastern religion, I was getting into all that. It was called Eightfold Fitness, and it was strictly vegan fitness related. I had been into lifting weights for a while, since freshman year at college, before I even started YouTube. But once I went vegan, I was really into like promoting it and making meals and stuff like that. And so my Instagram was really the first thing that had blown up. And this was probably like 2018 when I really gained traction on Instagram. I was posting every single day for almost a year on Instagram. And one day was a vegan fitness meal, and the other day was like just me flexing or something like that. So it was like a me post and a food post every other day. And that's where I was the most active, and that's where I was getting the most followers. So I switched my focus to that. Although I was still uploading on YouTube pretty much every week, once a week, but the content was now vegan fitness on YouTube. So that eventually, once I had a big enough following, I was like, now I want to monetize this. And that's what I think everybody should do when they start off on at least content creation, entrepreneurial journey, is you should not monetize your stuff right away. I don't think you should. I think you should build a big enough audience. What big is defined as, I don't really know, right? But for me, I think it was around, I don't know, 5 to 10K followers on Instagram. Yeah, you want to build their trust first and then sell them something. So I had built up a big enough following, and I used my computer science background to build a website where I had my portfolio, which is where I was showcasing my video editing skills, because at that point, my video editing skills were pretty good. They were all right. When I look back, okay, I guess. And then also coaching plans. And the way I did this was I trained 3 people for free first to get testimonials. I made like an Instagram post and a story. Hey, I want to train 3 of you guys before I start actually selling coaching plans. And did like a little giveaway in my comments, picked out 3 people, did the coaching for those 3 people. I think it was like 6 weeks or 12 weeks, and it all went really well for them. And then I had these testimonials on my website and went through PayPal to host the coaching plan options, which wasn't really the best, because if someone didn't have PayPal, they probably weren't going to sign up for it. And that was where the first little bit of income started coming from my brand, was the coaching plans. Then I also made a vegan fitness recipe ebook and put that on my website. That was the next thing. And for a while, that's what my brand was. It was like vegan fitness. From 2017 summer to early 2020. And like I said, yeah, I was making a decent bit of money. It was like part-time money, I would say. Over time, it grew. The coaching business grew, and I was making a little bit more money off of it. And that's where the primary source of income was coming from in terms of entrepreneurship. Eventually quit my busser job, I think around late 2019 or something. I actually don't remember. I think I was unemployed for about a year and not making that much money. I was living at home with my parents at this time. So still making the vegan fitness content. Instagram's at like 20K or something. YouTube didn't even hit 1,000 subscribers until the start of 2020, I think it was, right? Yeah, that makes sense. And I still wasn't monetized, making no money off of YouTube. So I just kept going with the vegan fitness stuff. And then one day, like I said, during summer of 2020, when I just moved out, and by the way, I was finally just making enough money to move out of my parents' house, solely off of like the coaching business, and still making vegan fitness content on YouTube. And then also every once in a while, I would make like self-improvement videos on YouTube as well. Starting, I don't know when it was. Actually, throughout that 2017 to 2020 period, every once in a while, I'd make a self-improvement video. And so now this was like mid 2020 summer. I put out that no-fap cold showers journaling video. And it did really well at the start, but it didn't like blow up at the start when I first put it out. And I'm like, cool. This was June 2020 or something, July 2020. And again, still things are mostly vegan fitness. Mostly vegan fitness on Instagram, mostly vegan fitness on YouTube. And then suddenly in October, which was the month before No Nut November, which makes sense. People are looking up no-fap content. That video just starts blowing up out of nowhere. And my YouTube channel finally starts to gain traction. I missed a point where when I got monetized on YouTube in March, I think, of 2020, finally. And so that was giving me like $20 a month or something like that. And then once that video blew up, it's like, oh, I made my first like real chunk of money off of YouTube in a month, or it was like a few $100s or something. I'm like, holy shit. Finally, after 3 years, like we're making money off of YouTube, which is what I always wanted. Instagram was great, but I really wanted to upload a video and like have ads play and me actually make money off of it. It's crazy. And so that video started blowing up. And I went from like 1,000 something subscribers to 10,000 within a month or two. So I had 10 times my subscriber count in a month, whereas it took 3 years to get to 1,000. And that's how things are in entrepreneurship. It's usually an exponential increase. At the start, it's so fucking slow, and then one thing just snowballs everything else. So I had 10,000 subscribers. That meant 9,000 of those subscribers came from my no-fap cold showers journaling video, which means the majority of my channel was self-improvement people now. And so in that way, the algorithm kind of decided my niche for me, but I was the one to make the video, right? I cared about self-improvement. I was passionate about self-improvement. You should be making videos that you care about and are passionate about, because eventually one's going to pop off like that. Somehow the algorithm is going to be like, hey, people like this. We're going to keep pushing it out to everyone. You should make more videos like this. And so that was when I was like, okay, I need to reevaluate this. I think I need to double down on self-improvement at this point. And so that's when self-improvement started on my channel, was later 2020. So then I changed to basically all self-improvement. Was still making some fitness videos here and there every once in a while, but self-improvement had really taken over at that point. And that's when everything started to really blow up on YouTube. Got to like 50,000 subscribers by the end of that year, and then 100,000 the start of next year. And after that, it just kept exponentially growing. And now we're growing at a pretty consistent rate on YouTube that we have been for a while now, almost 1 or 2 years, but it's still, yeah, it's been a crazy, crazy journey with all that. That's a very long story. There's a lot more new details in there.
A couple questions and comments. So one of the things that I've seen as a massive theme for most entrepreneurs is this tenacity of spirit to keep doing the thing or like sometimes 3 years or more. If not at least like a year or two before it actually starts to do anything.
Yeah. Definitely.
And do you think that is innate, or is that a skill that can be built?
I feel like I've asked this question to someone else on my podcast. So that's a good question. I think both. I mean, I think someone can have it innately because of the way that they were raised and they naturally had like good parenting or mentors in their life that brought that out of them. But you can also build that within yourself at any age to push through, persevere through obstacles and difficulties. I think anyone can build that. For me, and what'll make it easier for everyone, you have to, before you start anything you want to pursue and get better at, you have to focus on loving the process of doing it. There's no other way you're going to keep going unless you love what you're doing. You don't start something just because you want to make money off of it. That should be secondary to, oh, well, I do this just because I like doing it and I like getting better at it. That was the whole thing for me. That's why I stayed making videos for 3 years with nothing to show for it, is because I just love making videos. So it makes it much easier to be tenacious when you truly believe in what you're doing and you love what you're doing. And you just tell yourself one day that it will pay off. But for me, I certainly don't think that was innate. And that's not to bash my upbringing, because I think I had quite an above average upbringing if we compare it to the rest of the world. But I definitely felt growing up, even in my teenage years, that I was never good enough and that I was always being someone that I was not. I really wanted to fit in, I just wanted at all costs for people to like me, and I needed to be accepted and validated. And I didn't think very highly of myself unless other people did. And then once I got into that stuff that I was talking about, spirituality and self-improvement, then I started to realize my inherent worth and realized what I was capable of. So it absolutely can be built, no matter what your background, upbringing has looked like, or what age you are.
If you were to coach or try to empower somebody to build that tenacity, what would you tell them?
If I was to coach somebody about tenacity, I think the first thing I would do is have them evaluate their current mental state, why they feel like they can't achieve big things. So why do most people feel like they aren't good enough and they can't achieve enough? Well, it's because of their upbringing. That's usually where every bad thing about ourselves start, is we were either bullied as a kid, our parents, whom many of our parents try their best, but that's all they can really do because they don't have a book on parenting. They just inherit stuff from their parents. They bring down generational trauma to you. They do the best that they can, but even then, sometimes they yell at you. They don't give you validation unless you're like really achieving amazing things in your life, and they tell you what to do, and they tell you what makes you have value and what makes you worth something. So we tie our worth and our value to all these external things, which are completely society based. If we had a society in which everyone had like this inherent, at least base value, obviously more people are more successful objectively in certain things because they've been doing it for very long. But if we grew up in a society where, hey, everybody has base value, you are worth something, even if you don't have a ton of friends and your parents aren't giving you a bunch of love and validation all the time, then a lot more people would start to realize how much more they're capable of. And that's what I try to do with my YouTube videos, is try to make people realize their potential, because we all have way more than we think. You have beliefs about yourself that have been created over time, and that your circumstances, external events have reinforced those beliefs so that you really believe them to be true about yourself, such as I'm not good enough. I wasn't born with the tenacity, so I can't build it. That's just a belief. It's not objectively true. It's something that can be changed. And so I would first have them evaluate that within themselves. Like, what negative beliefs keep getting reinforced by society, other external factors that you're telling yourself about who you are that aren't serving you? And I would go about changing those things, which is a very long process. You basically have to completely transform your identity and convince yourself you are the person that can get shit done and be tenacious before you even are that person. You just have to constantly tell yourself that, and then align your actions with that as much as possible. So start off by doing one small difficult thing a day, basically. Something that has some resistance behind it, but you know it contributes to your life. Doing one small thing like that every single day, and then getting some positive reinforcement from yourself or someone else. Like if I was coaching someone, I'd be like, you really thought you couldn't do that, but look, you just did that. Like, do you understand what you're capable of? And constantly building up that confidence, because that's how I believe confidence is built, is you keep promises to yourself about doing difficult things, and you follow through with those promises, and eventually you have a stack of evidence that you are the person that you said you were. That's what I would that's what I would coach someone through. It's basically creating an entirely new identity by aligning their actions with that identity, and their thoughts and their intentions with that identity. That's a very long process, and it's hard when your current identity involves being too hard on yourself, because then that transfers over to when you're trying to change your identity and you're like, oh my fucking God, I forgot to do this today, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do it as well as I thought I would. And now I'll never be able to change into my new self that I'm trying to become. And that's something else you got to change. Those are the biggest things, is transforming your identity, evaluating the negative beliefs you currently have that are reinforcing that negative identity you want to get rid of, and just keeping these promises to yourself, these small promises to yourself, and working on them over time, and eventually building up enough trust in yourself that you can believe the things that you've been saying since I started coaching you, which are like, I am good enough. I can do this. I can persist through. Eventually you will become the person who truly believes that.
Yeah. You actually do a really great recap of this and more in your YouTube video, How to Unfuck Your Life, about how to create a whole new identity. And you go through it like
Right.
step by step and show how like you would do it if you had to do it. And so I'll leave a link in the show notes for the listeners. But like if you're like, I want to change my identity, like Cole has a really, detailed process in that video that is really good, and totally attainable and achievable, because it's like really done. And I mean this in the nicest sense possible, like in a baby steps way, instead of like you have to like quit your job and join the military and
Right.
like, you know what I mean? It's not like that. It's like can totally be done inside of anyone's life, no matter if you have a full-time job, if you're a parent, if you are in college and have school to do, it can totally be done. So I'll leave a link to that. A couple notes. I think like even doing something like a cold shower every day is going to help you
Yeah.
build capacity, right? Because
Right.
it's like you're like, oh fuck, that was hard. Okay, I can do that. I can do something else. And I think in addition to stacking up wins to like kind of validate your own confidence is really built through experience. So like go and do the things that you want to do. And if you suck at first, that's okay, because if you eventually you'll go from sucking to being okay, from being okay to like becoming pretty good. And then if you keep sticking with it, like you'll become great. And that's what you did in your own journey. Like I'm sure your first few videos, that first probably 2 to 3 years sucked. And then like, but by year 3, you're starting to get pretty good. And you just kept going. And now you're like literally like getting fucking great. and the world is showing you that, right? Through the growth of your channel and the number of subscribers and the impact that you're making in this world. So I'm glad we dove into that. I want to dive a little bit into your process around content creation, script writing. Like, how do you actually like think about that? And the frame of mind that might kind of like help you is like, say you're coaching me, like that, like I want to start a YouTube channel. Like, how would you like, what would you teach me about either your writing process or what you wish you would have done in the beginning that would have sped up your journey to becoming the Cole Hastings you are today as a YouTuber?
So do you want me to focus on script writing mostly, or just like the whole getting started?
A little bit of both. Because like I hear script writing, I'm like, what does that mean? Right?
Okay. Yeah. I always laugh when I get this question because I feel like I'm one of the most unorganized content creators. I don't have a content schedule. I mean, I do, like I post once a week, but sometimes I don't even know what video I'm going to make until that day that I start writing. I have some creative ideas.
I'm like the same way. I'm like,
yeah. So when starting off on YouTube, wow. Yeah, I guess we would start off with picking like what type of videos do you want to make? And I think a good question to ask is, what type of audience do you want to build? Because that's such an important thing with content creation is if you do not like your audience, like if you're building a vaping content creation channel, will you like your subscribers? Or if you're building who knows, drop shipping business YouTube channel and you're just doing it because finance pays really well on YouTube, is that really what you want though? Like that's not going to be sustainable over time. So think about the audience you want to serve and what problem of theirs you want to solve. And I don't think that's what I was thinking of at the start. I think I was making self-improvement videos because I was like, I like making videos. I was thinking about myself. Like, I want to make a YouTube channel. I want to make money. I think you should think about who you want to serve. That's what this is. Like, if you want to be a good YouTuber, you have to understand marketing to at least a certain extent. So think about the audience you want to serve and whose problem you want to solve. Think in detail of the person whom you want to help and for me, when I really started blowing up on YouTube was when I started telling stories of my past self and how I got through those difficult times. So I built up an audience of people who were who are me from the past, basically. A I don't want to say lower version of myself, but just like a younger version of myself. And that's who I was serving. And that's who I am kind of serving till this day. It's just someone who it's like me from a few years ago, basically. So think about that person and think about what problem you're going to solve for them. Now, YouTube is so saturated, like every social media platform. How the hell do you stand out? Of course, you're going to have to first accept the fact when you start out that, it might take you years, like it took me years. You have to be perfectly okay with that before you even start out. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. So like we talked about, loving the process, having that mindset, super important. Liking the audience you're serving, liking the content you're making, enjoying making videos. Like have that set in stone. And when it comes to standing out on YouTube, you have to basically have a contrarian idea, be right about that idea, and then execute on it religiously. I got this idea from Mark Manson, who wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He also has a YouTube channel, and he talks about success. And it's made so much sense to me, because it's like, oh yeah, that's what I've been doing on my channel for a while. Is a common comment on my channel is like, this is like the only nuanced, balanced self-improvement channel out there that isn't just spewing like men need to be super masculine and need to get all the women and I don't know if you're familiar with the red pill community. That's like where a lot of self-improvement YouTubers are. They all preach the same things, and I'm like, okay, well let's think about it this way. And I will present an argument for the way I think about things, and I bring a new perspective to things. At least that's what my audience tells me. I think I just have a way of saying concepts that are so timeless in a way that is different from most people on YouTube, and the way I present it is different. So having a contrarian idea or presenting something in a new perspective that no one else is doing and being right about it and doubling down on it, that's really how you stand out with the content. What else makes you stand out? Quality, of course. I invest heavily into my video equipment. I invest a lot of hours into my editing. That's going to stand out for sure. If you have all of those attributes tied to your videos, like most people don't have the highest quality setup or a high quality setup as mine is. So that is another way to like make yourself stand out on YouTube. And then obviously you got to make a good video that people want to watch till the end, because the two most important metrics on YouTube as to whether your video is going to get recommended to people, and that's what you should be focused on, is getting on people's YouTube recommended, not gaining subscribers, because that matters much less if you're trying to get the most amount of views. Focusing on the recommended, the two most important metrics are click-through rate and audience retention. So click-through rate is basically like, what's the percentage of people clicking on the video when they see the title and thumbnail? And then audience retention is, what's the average percentage of the video watched? So with click-through rate, titles and thumbnails, that's the most important part of your video, I want to say. I think it's literally like 60%, 70% the title and thumbnail, the topic, and like 30% how well the actual video is, or how good the actual video is. So you got to do research in your niche, see what's working for other people, and kind of bring your own unique spin on it. It's the same with the content, like I said, right? Like bring a new perspective on it, or bring in your own flavor, your own style. And you eventually develop your own style over time. I think when you first start out on YouTube, you are kind of copying people, but in like it's more like repurposing people's content almost, because you just don't have any like original ideas, and it's hard to be super original and creative when you're just starting out and you're an amateur at it. I know I certainly was. So study other people, you know, you can even just change their titles and thumbnails just a little bit, and that might be enough to push it out to the algorithm. Like you can see what's working right now and capitalize on it in your own way. So research in your niche what titles and thumbnails are working. As a general overview, majority of channels, like shorter titles do better. They're not super wordy. You can see my titles. They're not, most of them, except for my video essay videos, are only a few words long. And they're not super wordy, and they're very simple. They're legible, so like anyone could understand the concept, basically. You don't want to make it too complicated or anything. You don't want to use super complex wording and whatnot. Like, just be simple with it. A title that makes sense, that almost anybody can understand right away. That's what you want to make. And then the thumbnail, again, you want to have it to be contrasty, have bold colors, be colorful. Those things can help. The biggest like thing you should attach to your thumbnail is curiosity. So you want the person viewing your title and thumbnail, you want them to say to themselves, I need to know more, essentially. That's what you want to get the potential viewer to say to themselves. I need to know more about this topic. So that essentially just means them being curious about what the video is about. So in the title and thumbnail, you reveal what the video is about, but you leave like a breadcrumb for them to follow so that they actually click on the video. So maybe an example from one of my videos, right? Even just like how to unfuck your life. I'm not telling them how to unfuck their life in the title. They have to click on the video to find out. And then in the thumbnail, this is another example. I was basically like being where they might be in their life right now. Playing video games, sitting on their couch, shirtless, with chips and tissues around their lotion bottle, and an anime girl on their computer. Like, they probably thought, oh, that's like literally where I am right now. I need to get the fuck out of here. I need to unfuck my life. And I didn't tell them how. They got to click on the video to find out how. So they like, it was a intriguing thumbnail. Like, being intriguing was one thing. Another thing other YouTubers do is in their thumbnails, there's just like there's something like, I don't know, that's in the video that they don't fully show in the thumbnail. And I'm trying to think of an example right now. You know, Leon Hendricks is such a great example of someone who is good with thumbnails and self-improvement community. He had a thumbnail where it was like, I took $200 brain boosting pills. That was the title, something like that. And in the thumbnail, it's like this pill right next to his eye. And it's like this very interesting looking pill. And it's like, holy shit, what's that? I need to find out. That's what people are thinking. And so that's what the title and thumbnail, you know, you want to invoke curiosity. You want the viewer to think, I need to know more. With audience retention, it comes a lot down to the structure of the video and the script. So this is where we can talk about the script. For me, I'm always focusing on the story, on storytelling. That's the most important thing for even marketing too. People aren't buying a product. They're buying the story behind the product. They're buying how it makes them be perceived, perhaps, or how it was marketed, which is usually like a really strong story behind it. And YouTube videos are interesting, and you want to keep watching when you have a reason to keep watching, which is usually like a story. You don't really find out what happens in the story until the end of it, and that's the end of the video. So instead of just regurgitating facts you found online, you need to create a story out of your video. And I've done this by mostly talking about stories about my past in a certain way. I'll usually like start off a lot of my videos talking about a story and getting them hooked in on the story so that they want to keep watching. You do need a strong hook. I mean, it's been shown on my channel that really just reiterating the topic of the video is one of the best ways to do it. Like, hook them in with revealing more about the video but not revealing all about it, and just, being very engaging in the first 30 seconds. The first 30 seconds it's the most important part of your video, because that determines whether they're going to continue watching. So really focus on those first 30 seconds on like, hey, I'm revealing something to you about what you clicked on, to make sure for the audience to make sure that they're getting what they were promised in the title and thumbnail, and like revealing a little bit more about it. But like, now you're going to have to continue watching to find out. So really reel them in with the 30 seconds, but it's like, this is how it's going to be. So a really good example of a video that did really well in the first 30 seconds, I think, was like the mindset that makes tough times easy, which is where I'm talking about. I start off by talking about, we've all been there. We're in a tough situation we don't want to be in, or we're having an experience we don't want to experience and we just want to get away. In those really dire times, what's the best way we can get through it? We can do less and be more. Now, to explain this concept, let me take you to a time where I first started understanding it. So basically, I've had like this statement, do less, be more. There's more to that. Like, what does that mean? Well, let me tell you a story about what it means. Okay, let me continue watching then. That's basically what I did. If I reflect back on it, was I thinking about everything I just said at the time that I wrote that? No, I don't think I was. I think now when I look back in retrospect, I understand more how to structure videos. So with the script writing, how do I write scripts? A lot of my videos, I won't even know what I'm going to write, but it'll just, something magical happens when you just start writing, that once the momentum's built, something good can come out on the other end. But I typically like to think about just creating a story somehow and then providing a lesson at the end, specifically for my videos, because they're self-improvement. I'll tell a story and explain how that story is tied to what the audience should do, or the lesson they should take away from the video. Yeah. So writing good stories, the best way I've found to get better at writing is just to write more. I've technically, when I think about it, I've been writing almost like a short essay every single week for the past few years. And so eventually you're going to get at least somewhat decent at writing when you've been doing it for so long. So having this practice of writing will get you better at writing, of course. How do you get better at editing? You edit more. But the fundamentals of a good story are like tension, drama, of course, having like an introduction, establishing scene, setting the scene for people, building some tension within the story, because story without tension and drama or romance or something like that is like no one cares. So it's got to have something in it, some sort of struggle, right? You got to be struggling with something. And then it reaches a climax and you learn how to overcome it. And then there's kind of the final thoughts where I explain the lesson, which is a very watered down version of storytelling, but that's essentially what it is. You know, you're addressing and explaining a problem, building a lot of tension around it, so that you always think, you know, you might not get there, you might not achieve it, you might not make it, but then the person does. At least that's what I think you should do. You should have a sort of hero's journey where they complete whatever it was that they're going to do. But you can apply that sort of framework on such like a micro level too, I suppose. I don't know, for any sort of video, any sort of thing you're trying to explain, I don't know, just try to explain it in a basic story structure. There's still a lot I don't know about storytelling. I don't want to say I'm really good at it, but I think that's the basis of every good video, is it has a story behind it, and the story, there's a reason for wanting to get what's at the end of the story, and in between the start and the end, there's struggles and problems that come up, and then you get through them somehow. And you find out by continuing to watch or read or listen to the story.
You're putting structure around your process, which really like helping me think through like, okay, if I were going to do this, and I'm just trying to think of like an example for the audience. So like, I know you're like very big into meditation. So it's like, how would you teach someone about meditation? Well, you would take them back to a time in your own life when your mental health was like really terrible.
Yes.
And then you would hook them with that story, like about, you know, how you're like constantly anxiety, couldn't sleep, and restless, and just really unhappy with life. And then how it got worse and worse and worse. And then eventually there was either a breakdown or a climax. And then there was like the solve or the tool that started to turn the story around into, you know, an achievement or a breakthrough, or an evolution in the character's development through the story. And then you would share the final thoughts. So like the final thoughts would be like, so if you're going through any of like this, you know, anxiety or mental health challenges, like, you know, here are like a few takeaways that you could implement in your own life to like solve your own mental health challenges. So yeah, that's super powerful, dude. I appreciate you sharing that. And then what I was thinking through that is like, you can almost do that in almost any type of content, you know, on an Instagram reel, or even on a post with a caption underneath. And like, so, and because then people read the rest of the caption. So you have to start with the tension or the drama, and then you have to lead them through the arc of the story, and then you have to provide the solution and the final thoughts at the end. So
especially with like even real short form content, like give them a reason to continue watching, you know. And it's not through like, I suppose you can have like a list of things and then say, oh, the one at number 10 is the most important, and you know that helps. You know, you're telling them the end is what is most important, or the end is where you're going to find the goodie. That's got to be the thing. Like, structure your content like that.
That's really, I appreciate you walking through that, like, because that's essentially the key to the audience retention, is like you have to go through, like, you have to have a strong script process that leads them to watch the entire video. Otherwise, they watch the first, you know, on Instagram, they watch the first 3 seconds and then they're like, peace. And on YouTube, you have what, 20, 30 seconds before they bounce, or even less?
On YouTube, yeah. Yeah, I
Gotcha.
mean, first, but before they bounce, what do you mean though exactly? Like,
Like, how long will someone on YouTube watch before they're like, "Oh, I'm not interested," and they like click off and go somewhere else?
who knows, man? I mean, it could be. It probably depends on the person and their attention span, even. But I guess on average, it'd be 30 seconds, probably. You know, some people will watch a video for like 10 seconds and decide, nope, I'm done. Don't care.
Yeah. I want to do a little bit of a left turn,
Okay.
and just cover self improvement a little bit, um, because obviously that's what your channel is about, and I'm very passionate about the topic as well, or kind of the subject material of self improvement, personal development, human potential, mindset, all that stuff. And I know my audience is too. So, what are some of your, you mentioned in the opening of the interview, kind of like how you first kind of got into it, through the gentleman named Ralph something or other.
Ralph
Um,
Smart, yeah.
yeah. But like, what are some of your top resources you would recommend to people who are looking to take their self self development to the next level?
Top resources. There's a lot of good channels out there, I think, that are all producing somewhat different content. Um, Ali Abdal has a lot of good basic self improvement stuff that also teaches you like the business side of things. He's more analytical, logical type of person. Then, like I said, Leon Hendricks, I think, just creates really great stories in his videos that inspire you to want to take action after you watch them. Captain Sinbad has kind of transitioned towards more like talking about business and dating and whatnot and just having more energy, stuff like that. Andrew Huberman's a great guy for learning more about the science behind things. Um, as far as like books go, I think the most impactful ones for me were Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss, which is basically just summarized versions of almost every single one of his podcast interviews until the time he wrote that book, which is just a crazy resource. Uh, How to Win Friends and Influence People, super impactful on my social skills. So really basic things, but it's good to start out basic, I think. And then reading philosophy as well, I think, is incredibly important. And learning how to deal with life's difficulties through philosophy, having the right life philosophy, in contemplating things and questioning things. And I think once you consume all these different types of materials, you'll find that a lot of the stuff applies to your life and benefits your life, and a lot of it doesn't. And the intention is always to have it improve your life, but a lot of this stuff wouldn't, or it would be a detriment, or it would just be a waste of time. So figuring that out for yourself is what I hope for people to do eventually at one point in their self-improvement journey, and stop relying so much on consuming, and just starting to apply the knowledge, which you should be doing at the start anyway, but shifting majority of your time to application. Eventually, I would like everybody to get there. Yeah, I'm basically saying like, stop watching me so much. Eventually, like that's the goal with my content, is like eventually I want you to get to the point where you don't have to always watch my videos in order to be motivated or to do the right thing. So consume a lot of stuff like that and see what works for you and what doesn't. Apply what works, or apply everything you consume and see if it works, see if it doesn't, and keep what works. And I feel like that's what I've done now. And yeah, develop your own philosophy on things, develop your own way of applying self-improvement in your own subjective way. You don't have to be the self-improvement guy that you're watching every day, or the ideal whatever man or woman that this person is saying you should be, or that they say like this is what you have to do in order to be the best. Like maybe you don't have to be the best. Maybe the best version for you is a different version than they're saying. So consume stuff, apply it, see what works, and then make your own subjective way of improving yourself. Sure. So self-mastery course is something I created September of last year, but I built it for about half a year last year, starting around, I don't remember, March or April. This was a 6-month long video course creation that I created with 14 pre-sale members. I decided I didn't want to create this by myself. I wanted my own community to be able to get a say in how the course is created. And that also would allow me to get the best feedback possible, because I can create these videos, but they, unless I have a bunch of outside opinions from people who I want to get the course, then it won't be the best it can be. So I had, in that 6 months, every other weekend, I would meet with these pre-sale members and we would go over the video I had just created. And they would tell me what they liked, what they didn't like, what I should refine. And that really allowed me to create the best, most impactful course I possibly could have. So big credit goes to them. The structure of the course is, it's in several sections. It's self-awareness, shadow work, developing healthy habits, and building your own life philosophy. So it's meant to be done in this way. I think self-awareness is the most important thing, is uncovering these automatic tendencies and beliefs you have about yourself, learning how to transform them, and learning how to just be more aware of yourself and why you think about things the way you do, why you act the way you do. I think that's the core of self-improvement, is first understanding and having a good self-awareness and building up emotional intelligence. Then there's shadow work, which has to do with the repressed parts of yourself, the suppressed parts of yourself that you project onto other people. And it's this really interesting discovery of realizing that a lot of what triggers you in other people is something that's within you that was repressed a long time ago. And it's learning to accept that and integrating your shadow into your life in a healthy way, which is so important. And that allows you to just understand yourself better as well, but on a higher level. And again, I think it attributes to emotional regulation and not wondering why you feel angry or sad or depressed or pissed off, and learning how to accept it and fully embrace it in your life, because everybody has this negative shadow part of ourselves that we just want to get rid of. But once you look at it and you really accept it, that's when really beautiful things start to happen. And then there is developing healthy habits, which I created off multiple books and resources I read about habit building and all the science behind it. And it goes over how to remove all the bad habits from your life and how to create healthy ones. So that's kind of self-explanatory. And then developing your own life philosophy, thinking about things in a philosophical way, kind of how I was talking about building your own self-improvement project, building your own way of improving. I think everybody should develop their own life philosophy and think about things in a philosophical way, which is asking the right questions about morals and ethics and what makes a good person and a bad person, and thinking about the world this way, and subjective truth versus objective truth. I go over all these things to help people like think more critically and use that in a way to develop their own life philosophy, which there's a lot of existential philosophers out there. There are like Stoicism is another popular philosophy, right? It's like taking all these things in and deciding, how can I put put this into my own life and then also argue for these things, creating good arguments as to why you think this way, I think is really important for people to develop as a skill too. So it's a whole lot of everything. It's everything I've learned and applied in my life over my, now I've been doing self-improvement for like 6 years almost, or just about 6 years. Yeah. 6.5 even. And I summarized it all into one course. And now we have the community, which is different from the pre-sale group, that's also attached to the course. There's an exclusive community where I hang out and all the rest of the course members hang out and we talk to each other. This is where you can really get accountability. I think accountability is one of the most powerful tools to actually staying on track, is having people holding you accountable and knowing they're on the same path as you, all trying to achieve big things. Your circle and who you interact with is going to shape who you become 100%. And it also gives me a way to interact with the course members, which is amazing. And every other weekend, we actually meet up in a call to discuss our goals, updates, what else we're trying to achieve, what we're having trouble with, and how to solve it. It's a really awesome group. It's been the most fulfilling thing I've created, without a doubt. Just being able to really interact with the people who have always supported me on that deep of a level, it's awesome. And so the community is a huge aspect of it. And I think that's how you really will be motivated enough to stick with the course until the end. So yeah, it's a 14 video course. There's a there's a worksheet with every single video. So you're actually applying what you've learned. So it is really like a course, like almost like a college course, but for self-improvement. And all these worksheets are set up so that you actually retain the knowledge and you're applying the knowledge. Because if you're just consuming these videos without doing anything and having actionable steps that you can take, it's going to be useless. So there's 14 videos, 15 plus worksheets. So at least one for every video. I have my own guided meditation in there as well. And then the community to help keep you accountable and see through it till the end.
I love it. Yeah, I was going to mention the worksheets if you didn't say it, because all the self-improvement is like worthless if you don't take any action on it.
Yes.
And
exactly.
It's so like, it's just mental masturbation if you don't do anything with it. So, and we already talked plenty about masturbation. So
yeah, exactly.
Question for you. I tend to ask this question a lot since the rebrand of the show to Fit Rich Life is one tip, tool, or strategy for money, fitness, and life. So one for fitness, one for money, and one for life. And it could be something simple. It could be something deep. It could literally be a strategy, a framework, whatever. Anything come to mind?
One for money, I think, would just be track everything. Track your spending and your expenses and see where your money is going, because what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed. So really figure out where your money is going and see what you can do about it if you are unhappy with your financial situation. There's something you can cut back on or some other way you can start to increase your income so that your expenses don't seem so large. The first step to all of that is just tracking everything, which I don't think a lot of people do. For fitness, sleeping at least 8 hours a night for me. Any less than 8 hours, I usually am 80% human. And then if it's less than 7 hours, I'm a 50% human. And specifically for fitness, it's been shown scientifically, you will run less. You will run less far. You will lift less weights. You will have less cognitive capability. You will be less likely to be motivated enough to go to the gym. Everything in your life suffers if you don't get your sleep in order. And for that, I few things just really quickly is take a morning walk, at least 10 minutes, get sun on your face if you can. No screens an hour before bed, no caffeine 10 hours before bed. So basically like the entire day except for the morning. And read some fiction before bed. That's what I like to do. It takes my mind off of real life struggles, puts me into a different world for a little bit, and helps me calm down. It's actually been shown that reading even a few pages before bed like drastically reduces your heart rate and reduces stress. So give that a shot as well. And then for life, one tip for life. I guess just find a way to enjoy every moment, even in the darkest of times. Just find some way to realize you're really here experiencing life right now. And to have that experience is insane to even think about. To know that I can see all these different colors, feel all these different textures, hear all these different sounds. It's an absurd thing when you really think about it, and you take a second to step back and be grateful that you even get to occupy your body, no matter what you look like or have. I think it's a crazy experience that we're all going through right now, and that we're in the middle of. So I mean, I try to occupy that and realize that within every single moment, there's some sort of beauty and joy, and that sort of feeling, that sort of novelty with every moment, like a kid does. You can feel that no matter what you're doing.
Awesome. Any other thoughts or words of wisdom or requests to the audience or topics that you'd like to cover?
I guess I would just say, if what you're doing every single day isn't something where at the end of your life you would look back and say, yeah, even if you don't get there, even if you don't get to the place you want to be, if you at the end of your life you said, I did what I wanted to do no matter what, and I was happy with enjoying the daily process of doing it. If you aren't going to say that with what you're doing right now, please do something to get there, because that is one of the only things that matters in life, is just enjoying the everyday process of life, finding what that is or working towards what that is. Do not wait. Just do it right now.
Love it. Cole Hastings everywhere, online, YouTube, Instagram. I'll put links in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show, brother.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.